And it is my pleasure to bring up a friend and someone that has done the serious deal of staying sober for quite some time. It's my honor to introduce Dave G. from Lake Havasu City, Arizona.
There's a card waiting. Oh, and a cell phone and all kinds. Man, thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave. Always been an alcoholic. And before I get started, I'd like to ask if we could just kind of take a moment and reflect over the year and maybe some of the family members you might have lost or had struggles, and our members that we've lost, one recently, and and then just the blessings that we've had as well. It's not all bad for sure. So there's a lot to be grateful for. And if you just join me in a little moment of silence for all that, and then I'll go ahead and get started. Thank you. Amen. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to start off with my sobriety date is April 3rd, 2002, and for that I'm eternally grateful. I don't always remember to be grateful every second of every day. I'd like to welcome back Lindy and Will and our visitor Dave and Karen and Jeff on your 2 months. It's a journey. It's a process. It's not. I was just telling Lindy that it takes what it takes, and and Jeff mentioned the word failed. Man, I don't think you failed at all, man. It's just part. It's part of your journey. It's part of your story. I went back out at 10 years, and that first drink lasted 5 years. I don't think I have another comeback with me. So I tell everybody just to stay. But you were right, man. No, you're not doing this perfect. I'm not doing it perfect. I haven't met anybody in AA that does it perfect. Some that are a lot closer than others, a lot closer than me, that's for sure. I try to pay attention to those people. When I first got here, I was just a joker. I just came here to get my 3-month court card signed, and someone in this room shared yesterday, and I won't say who it is, Doug, and shared that, like when he first came to meetings, that, it was like for the entertainment value. And I get that, man. I was just here to get the judge off my back, so I'm just, waiting to get my court card signed. So, down in Huntington Beach, there's a lot of pretty girls, I'm like, so I just started hanging out at the meetings with the pretty girls, man. At least, it didn't seem like such a bummer. And then after that, I'll tell you what, when those meetings were an hour and a half, and when you don't want to be at an AA meeting, an hour and a half seems like a week and a half. I don't know about anyone else, if you ever went down that path, man, I was sure ready for that drink, and that's exactly what I did. I'd just push and grind myself through that hour, and I thought I was being tricky too, because I was sitting on the back wall, and that way I could just hightail it out of there. But I forgot that when they said that when they're passing the seventh tradition basket around, put your court cards in there, and the secretary was all the way up front. So I wasn't getting away with nothing, because I still had to go through. Some of these meetings had 100 people in them or more. So I'd have to wedge my way through there to get my court card. Of course, I got my head down. It's just don't talk to me. I got nothing to say. And, I certainly didn't want to be there. I wasn't ready yet in that aspect. I'm a firm believer that before any of us get sober, that we have to drink our required amount, whatever that is, man. It's different for each and every person. And I do other stuff too. I do the dry goods, and I'm up for 4 and 5, 6 days and nights straight, and just getting it on. And then the only 2 ways I ever quit is I'd rather pass out or I get arrested. That's it. I didn't even have to do an inventory on that one. But check this out. Every time I was in jail, I'd be like this going, how did I get here again? Like it was a mystery. I mean, I blamed it on everything and everyone except for King Alcohol. You know, and anyway, so I'm going to kind of go back to the beginning and kind of go through it real quick. That I was born and raised in the city of Orange in Orange County, and life was pretty good for, I don't know, let's say the first 9 or so years. Christmases were okay, and there was some family get-togethers and that type of stuff. But my dad, he was 9th grade education. He went into the Merchant Marines, sent money back because back then, like the Great Depression, and just coming out of that. So he was trying to help the family out, send his money back, and all that. And I know he had a nervous breakdown. My mom told me. I don't know at what point he started drinking, but he was a raging alcoholic with a lot of anger issues. He'd get up and go to work early, like 3, 4 a.m. He had his own construction company, very successful for a 9th grade education. Come home, start drinking, and do the Jekyll and Hyde thing. And I found myself, walking around on eggshells, and I always heard, him and my mom screaming at each other. And, one night he threw her through a plate glass window, the slider, and then the cops were there. And, and those type of things, we always, in our house, I think back then you just didn't take that stuff to neighbors, or nobody knew about it. You just try to keep it a secret or whatever. And things started getting pretty intense and brutal. And I was like, I was scared of my dad. He was like 6'2", and and I always seemed to be in the way. And so that's kind of like how I always felt in life as well. Like I just every place I went, man, I just didn't feel like I fit in. And it was always like walking on eggshells, or oh my God, it's like according to my parents, man, I just never did anything right. They could give me a list of 10 to do things, and I'd start at the first one and go, and they get home, they're like, well, why'd you start there? And it was just stuff like that. And I don't know if what do you call that? Emotional stuff and whatever, man. And one day, like no more Christmases really. They all suck. No more family get-togethers. The fighting amongst my parents got worse and worse. And finally, just one day, I was like, man, what is this stuff that he comes home and starts drinking and change? Now, I don't know. I think one would think that that'd be enough to stay away from it. But I don't know. I must be part cat or something. Curiosity was getting the best of me. So I went and stole a bud tall and went out in the backyard. It was nighttime. Dove into the bushes and opened it up. 2 things happened immediately. It tasted like crap, and I wanted more. I mean, there's some more insanity, right? When I ate sauerkraut, I didn't like it. Guess what? I didn't want more. So it's what it did was it set off the phenomena of craving. And I would say I was already by that point blaming people, places, and things. Why I felt so bad. Oh man, poor Dave. I was like a victim. And it's just the finger pointing just started, man. And I'll tell you what. So I started. I had some older friends. I'm the youngest of 5. I had 3 older brothers and an older sister. I grew up pretty fast, And I was listening to the Allman Brothers when I was like 14, I think, or something. And people are going, "Who's that?" I'm like, "It's Allman Brothers, man." And anyways. I was always one of the biggest kids in my class every year. And, so I started hanging out with people that were like 2 and 3 years older than me. So I'd steal a bud tall every night and, save it up for the weekend. And so I'd show up with 6 or 8 bud talls. I'd always steal a 20 from my dad, which was a ton of money back in the late 70s. Actually, I was only that time, 13, 14. So that was, yeah, early 70s, mid 70s. And anyways, yeah, so then I was like buying that stuff, because I had to bring something to the table to hang out with these guys. And man, it was just, God, I could breathe, man. It's like I could just be myself. I could laugh, I could have fun. It's like, my friends were supporting me, and and we just had fun together. It was like completely opposite of my family life. And man, it's like I wanted to be on the honor roll in that game. School didn't. My parents just said, if you get a passing grade of a C, we're happy. They never encouraged me to do anything to be better, but they expected me to be better. And when you encourage people, that involves taking time to be part of their life, to be the example, to show, in here it's, attraction rather than promotion, right? So that takes time. And getting sober takes time. Staying sober takes time. I hope I'm not all over the map. I feel like I am. But, so... Yeah, and then I was like the human punching bag for my brothers, and mostly my brother was only 11 months older than me, and that's when like wrestling came out, and he was always Freddie Blassie, some washed up no good wrestler. He was just like, hey, outweighed me by 40, 50 pounds, man. He just one night, man, he whipped me into the bedpost, man, just split my eye like this, blood's gushing, and he goes running, and I'm like in there crying and bleeding, and and that continued, man, and I didn't know what to do because my parents weren't around. And finally one day he came up and I forget what he did, man, but I didn't forget what I did. He was like punching me and doing all that stuff, and he got done, and I went into my room, I grabbed my 33-ounce Louisville Slugger, came back out, hit him in the knees, he hit the ground, I put my foot on his neck, the butt end of the bat, and about 10 pounds of pressure, and twisted it till his eyes were like this. I said, you fuck with me again, I'll kill you. And I meant it. I meant it. And he never messed with me. Sorry about the F word. I used it as a noun, an action word. It's okay. It's okay. So... and that's another thing too. I used to cuss all the time, before I got here, and how to do a last name for God and all these things. And people would say, oh, you swear like a truck driver, and I'd show them my license. I'm like, I am a truck driver, and they're like, well, that was ineffective. And but it's a learning process. Most of the changes I've made is because I didn't like it about myself. Someone talked in a meeting today, excuse me, about that part of, like when we finally might notice ourselves in the mirror. I used to just avoid the mirror. Most of my mirrors were, they were horizontal, not vertical, and yeah. The only reason I went in the bathroom was to go to the bathroom, not to shave or do any of that stuff, man. And, so, man, I did some crazy stuff at a young age. I was in ninth grade, I was stealing my mom's Cadillac Coupe de Ville. And I'd wake up and I'd take some bong hits and listen to some Led Zeppelin. I'd steal her car, go pick up like 3 or 4 friends, and then drop them off in front of junior high school. I'd be in line with the other parents. All right, kids, get out. I never thought twice about it, man. It was fun. It was fun. And I never thought about consequences. I was maladjusted to life. I was, I don't know, I guess I was just like teaching myself to grow up, or maybe, just try to be an adult as a child. I really don't know. It just seemed like fun. And one time I came home and the garage door was down, so I knew I was busted. And never did that again. Because what another thing my mom would do also to have control on me was threaten to tell my dad. There was that one. That was her control, man, and that just scared the bejesus out of me, because that was something, a day of reckoning I didn't want to encounter. And so now when I was 18, didn't graduate high school. My mom was really bummed out, and my grandma. It was like a giant letdown, and which I didn't understand that because I didn't think it was all that important. They never made it seem like education was that important, and I just thought, I just thought I was going to inherit my dad's construction company. I was a pipe layer foreman at 18. As soon as I got out of high school, that's what I was, and because I had done it for so long. And anyways, that ended quickly because my dad found out that I went to visit my mom, and according to him, because he hated her, I was supposed to hate her too, and that's my family. And then he threw me out of the house. I was homeless at 18, no job, no nothing, and then I was just like, I was breaking into cars to have a shelter over my head, and if I break into a car and it had something worth stealing, man, I'd steal it and then leave that car and go somewhere else, another car. Man, it's amazing what people keep in cars: guns, wallets, all kinds of stuff. And it's like, I put it this way: I was doing something that nobody should be doing, let alone just some young kid that's 18, and young and dumb. And fearless, or I don't know if fearless was the word, is like drunkenness. And so then I saved up enough money to buy a car, and a couple of my buddies and I went to Colorado to be ski bums, and that was a lot of fun. Ended up getting a job at a ski resort, and it was just more drunken, just all of it's drunkenness. So I guess I'll probably end quickly because that's really what it is, just a drunk-a-log, And I got my first DUI at 18, and the judge looked at me, said, "Mr. Green, what were you thinking?" Damn, if that wasn't the $1 million question. like, what are you talking about? What was I thinking? And I just remember sitting there just going, God, I can't wait for this guy to shut up so I can go drink. That was my whole MO. Just like, any part of life, I didn't want anything to do with it. I just wanted to drink. Happy, mad, glad, or sad, it didn't matter. We're some of the only people I know that can, when we're active in our alcoholism, go celebrate the birth of a grandbaby and end up with a felony. That's just the stuff that we do. It's just insanity. And so then I got my second DUI, I think 2 weeks before my 21st birthday. And I thought, well, that's bad luck. But back then, it didn't seem like, it's nothing like now. Trust me. I've heard some of the stories now getting DUIs. I've heard the stories of a lot of stuff in Arizona. You don't want to get caught with drugs in Arizona, man. They don't like it here. So I'm glad that I did all my stuff in California, and maybe a long time ago. I got my third DUI Christmas or Thanksgiving Eve in 1999. But as I said, my sobriety date is 4/3/2, so I didn't get sober on the third one. But what had happened was I was going to one of those damn AA meetings to get my damn court card signed down in Huntington Beach. And I came across an accident scene at Beach and Warner, I believe it was, or Beach and Ellis, rather. And, so this is something... maybe, Lindy and I were kind of talking before the meeting too, and she said she didn't know what got her back here. And I have no doubt it was God. That's my belief, and I saw that accident scene, the flowers, the broken glass, the spent road flares from the police. And the scene, and I pulled into that gas station. I mean, my car just pulled into the gas station like it used to pull into bars, just on its own. And I walked in, and I asked the guy, I said, what happened? He goes, oh, a drunk driver ran a red light and killed 3 girls. And I just went, man, that was my burning bush. That was my awakening. I'm like, oh my God, that guy is me. I'm him. There is no difference. The only difference is he was 26 and I was 40. That's it. We even had the same DUI instructor for our DUI class. I found that out later. And then I walked into the meeting 7 minutes later, meeting just like this. They're all just like this. Walked in, they said, is there anybody new? Man, my hand went flying up. My name's Dave and I'm an alcoholic. And that started my sober journey. Once again, I haven't done anything perfectly. The only thing I've done perfectly is not take that first drink. I did that before at 10 years, and it lasted 5 years. And I'm not willing to take that risk. So I'm willing to do the work, take the effort. I work a lot of hours. I struggle quite often to find the balance, to get to meetings, to get my rest so I'm safe when I'm out there driving my semi-truck, to talk to my sponsor, to talk to you guys. I do have a lot of time on the road, so I call people a lot, and that's my way of staying connected. And luckily for me, I see God in nature and beauty, just like these creations, man. I'm just like, it's got to be God, man. I mean, this is amazing, amazing stuff that we see. And on that third DUI on Thanksgiving Eve, 1999. I was going from Orange County, from Southern California to Northern California, because I talked to my mom on the phone, and she didn't sound good. And in my mind, my mind was saying, she's not going to make it through the night, because my mom was like always ill and sick, and sometimes, she'd tell me things. I didn't know if it was true or not true, or if she was embellishing or, just making it sound worse. So, find that empathy or sympathy and stuff like I was doing with everybody else. She was the victim. I had a great teacher on victimism. And, man, I didn't think she was going to make it. And I was having this great debate. I'm going, shit, man. It's like, you've been drinking a lot and maybe you shouldn't do it. You know what I did? Went to the liquor store, got a 12-pack and some ice and hit the road. I mean, just like that. I just having that conversation with myself. You probably shouldn't go. You've been drinking a lot. What do? I go buy more booze for the long road trip. I got caught in Avenal, which is halfway between NorCal and Southern California, out in the middle of nowhere. And you know what? I was relieved. I was relieved that I got caught. It was like, because I couldn't stop myself. I still had a 6-pack of Tall Boys. When I did my breathalyzer, I blew a .23 and a 2.4. And, that's another thing. I always thought I was smart, because I like I said, I do both, the dry goods and the alcohol. And I would always do the P test, because all they tested for was alcohol. Man, I had so much cocaine in my system, man. It was just like, I'm going, I'm a smart guy. I'll take that, because I'm not going to have them draw blood, man. They'll forget about the drinking thing. They're going to go after the other stuff. So I always thought that was being smart. And oh my God. When I got arrested, though, I had this nice little drive on the way to their little county jail out there. And we drove right by Avenal State Prison. I got a nice slow look at that. I think he slowed down just so I could get a good look at that prison as I'm going by it. And man, I'll tell you what, I did see it. I did notice, So yeah, so I went to here's one thing that sucked. like one of others. So, like when you get a DUI, they take your license away, I think in like a month or less, like you get like 30 days and then your license is no good. So because I was on Thanksgiving Eve, what happens a month later? This night right here, Christmas Eve. So I lost my license, but that's when I was supposed to be at court. It was a month later. And I called them up. I said, hey, are you guys going to be open? She goes, no, it's Christmas Eve. I'm like, yeah, I know. Well, that's my court date. And she goes, oh, we'll make it for another month after that. So I had to like pay a friend an enormous amount of money to take the day off of work. He had to like ask his wife if it was cool if he took the day off of work and take my ass up there and get a hotel room and go to a court date and blah, blah, blah. All this stuff, the stuff that we find, the mess that we find ourselves in. And I'm listening to these cases before me, like 10 of them, and they're lying to this judge. And I'm just thinking to myself, they've realized this guy's highly educated, right? And this is what he does for a living, and that's like the best story they got. I'm just going, this guy's going to hang me from the highest oak tree, I'll probably end up in that prison down the road before I even say, my name's Dave. And he calls me up there and he goes, and I could see he was just disgusted. And he goes, well, Mr. Green, he goes, first of all, I got a couple things to say. He goes, first of all, you're lucky to be alive. I see you blew a 2-3 and a 2-4. And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, kind of like that, how do you plea? Just wait. How do you, Andy, this must be for the judge stories. Wow. And I said, I looked at him and go, are you serious? I said, I'm guilty as sin. This is a God's honest truth. His jaw dropped, hit his desk, and he made a example of me for the next 5 minutes of someone that's finally coming up and owning what they did. He made it sound like I was doing good. And I'm just going, yeah, it's like, damn, it's like, and he gave me the least of everything. He goes, I have a little faith and trust in you. I think you've seen you're part of this for sure, and that you're going to be one of the people that actually makes a change. And of course, like everybody else, I'm like, well, yeah, it's like not really, kind of meaning it, but kind of not. And, Mike sent me this podcast about this girl talks about emotional sobriety and stuff. And the reason I'm going to that right now is because in there she said, I mean well, but I don't do well. And I could relate to that. It was lip service. We are so good at that. We can look people straight in the eye and tell them a lie like it's the truth. That's just part of our MO and our background to get away with what we do. Anyway, so yeah, I was going to get that damn court card signed, walked in there April 3rd, 2002, raised my hand, and the only thing I've done perfectly is not pick up a drink. I found out that, the judges, the police officers, the guidance counselors, principals, adults, bosses, all those people told me I had a drinking problem. That's what I thought I had, a drinking problem. Come to AA, it's like, well, I'll just quit, no problem, right? Wrong. I was going to meetings for, 3-4 years, and I met this guy, and he was sharing, and he goes, yeah, drinking's not my problem, drinking's my solution. And that's the first time I heard it. Sometimes we hear the same thing in here 1,000 times until we actually hear it. And just like, we'll hear that saying in here, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And that's just what happened. And I'm just like, oh my God, yeah. So, we put the drink down, and you might as well pick up some paper and a pencil or a pen and get ready to write, because all of those character defects, all the stuff I pushed down, all the insecurities, all the anger, all the resentment, all the hatred, all the guilt, all the shame, all the remorse, the incomprehensible demoralization. You say that all the time, man. And when I hear that, I think of you, and you know, and that's exactly what happened. And you know, I stayed on the first 3 steps for 18 months. There was a lot of power and freedom just in those first 3 steps for me. I was happy, joyous, and free. I'm like anything else, you know, like, well, why go any farther? I feel great. Right? I mean, who's gonna, you know, who's gonna, like, that 9th step crap? Who wants to do that? I would remember I was the victim. I was the one that was wronged. I was just reacting to you. And I got it all justified. You think I'm going to go tell someone I'm sorry? It's probably not going to turn out so good. Sorry I didn't punch you sooner, you know. Sorry you were born. Sorry we lived on the same street. You know, I mean, I had no idea of any of this stuff, man. And you know, and it's a sad truth. And thank God that we get to come in here and say stuff like that and then just laugh, because we know what it is. You know, we're all the same. It says we're a group that doesn't normally mix. But look at us, man. We're from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, all different family structures or unstructured, and rich, poor, you know, white, black, straight, gay. It doesn't matter, man. If you're an alcoholic and you're here seeking recovery, man, it's like, it's our responsibility to make sure that that's met. You know, if someone reaches out, you know, not everybody here is here for recovery, though. I've had more people ask me for $20 than to sponsor them. Hey man, you got $20 I can borrow? And I'll tell you what, and I've done it. I've given them the $20 because if I can learn a $20 lesson about that person, that's cheap. That's getting off easy. That's getting off easy. So finally, it just came to a point where, man, at 18 months and the first 3 steps, I was just like, I could feel it, man. I wasn't happy, joyous, and free anymore. Like the gears were grinding, man. There was no more social lubrication. I wasn't feeling connected to people. I was like judging. I was getting into the judgmental phase at meetings. I'd like, oh man, that person's here. Oh, that person's, and you know what? We all do it. If you've never done that, please raise your hand right now. That's what I thought. See. Yes, exactly. And you know, and when I first got here, I thought I was unique. I was unique as in I was different. You know, like I didn't even feel like I fit into AA. You know, and you know, everything I've learned about sobriety, emotional or physical or mental or spiritual sobriety, has been in these rooms. You know. I realized that sometimes I had a phrase or a term and I'd have a period there at the end of it, but it should have been a comma because there's more to it, you know? And, yeah, so I thought I was unique, and then, you know, just unique, quotation marks or period or whatever. And this guy shared in a meeting, he goes, yeah, you know, I was terminally unique. And I'm just going, and it just clicked, man. We hear things in here that just like makes it click, right? Like what? Like, did they say what I thought? And me being the genius that I was, you know, that's only 2 words. Let me break down 2 words, right? Terminal, what's that mean? Dying. It's like death. Terminal uniqueness. I'm dying alone. I'm not part of you guys. I'm not allowing myself to be part of it. I don't fit in. I never have. I don't fit into the world. I don't fit into AA. I don't fit in anywhere. I'm just dying alone. And guess what? There's not enough alcohol on this planet to take that away. There's not. I tried. I tried to drink my way into happiness. It might start out okay in the beginning, you know. Have you ever just been at work and you're thinking about that drink and getting off work at 3, 4, 5, whatever, and you're thinking about it all day, and it's like it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to come along, and then finally you get off work, you're walking out to your car in the parking lot, and you just start feeling better because you know the drink is that much closer, right? And then you pull up and you see a couple of your friends' trucks or cars at the bar, and you're like, right on, man. Oh, I know, they got some shit. Yeah, it's on now, right? And there's another thing I heard in a meeting. The guy asked the question, he goes, ever go to a bar for one or two? Ended up leaving at one or two? I'm just going, all the time. All the time. And then I find the switch to my ass-kicking machine, and I start beating myself up. I start, now it's like I'm hearing last call. That's not 2 words that an alcoholic wants to hear. Last call, I'd go up and order a beer and a shot, and he goes, man, it's last call. I said, I know, quit wasting my fucking time. Give me a beer and a shot. And that's how I would say it. And I would try to intimidate and scare people. Like, just shut up and give me my medicine. And I don't know about anyone else. I always made sure there was a ton of booze at my house. So when I left the bar and a bunch of other stuff, that I could go home and continue the party. And anyways, no off switch. And when I admitted I was an alcoholic, put my hand up and all that, there was an instant relief. But then, for the first time, reality sets in real fast. When you make that decision to quit drinking, it was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Did I really say that? Did they hear me? How do you have a barbecue without a beer? How do you go fishing without a beer? How do you go camping without beer? That was legitimate questions for me. When I went in to take a shower, my soap dish was my beer holder. I couldn't take a shower without a beer. How are we going to do this thing? And, and I was secretly, so what I started doing after that, instead of sitting in the back with my arms crossed and that scowl, that anger look, like, don't talk to me, I'd sit back there and secretly listen to you guys. Wouldn't let you know I was listening, because what were you always saying? Don't leave before the miracle. One day at a time. I'm going, man, the next person that says that, I'm going to punch them. It's like, is that all you got? One day at a time. And, and then they were saying, like you said, don't leave before the miracle. I'm going, oh, finally. Don't leave before the miracle. They're going to tell me how I can drink with impunity. That's what these guys are. Yeah, they're pretty intelligent, man. They're here to learn how to drink and not get DUIs, not get a divorce, not lose their career of 20 years, not to, have their kids not talk to them. Fill in the blank, on and on, right? We have a plethora. We have a list that's 10 miles long of all the do's and don'ts. And then one day I was like listening intently, man. It was like just listening. Like, man, when are they going to share that miracle? They keep talking about this. Don't leave before the miracle. When are they going to share the damn thing? I want to hear, where is it? And then one day I realized just the way this person said the same thing, just a little bit differently. I finally heard it. And I'll tell you what, that's when my heart really sank. And that was the day that I realized you guys were talking about total abstinence. And I'm just like, oh my God. That's when I realized AA is not for sissies. It's not for losers. It's not for weak people. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I was hearing things. I had my own definitions my whole life of stuff. Like when I first got here, you guys would say God, and I'd hear Jesus. I'm like, oh, No wonder I didn't feel part of, right? And someone, asked me, he's like, oh, so what do you think about that? I said, I think it sucks, man. I go, what's it, why Jesus? And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you said Jesus. And he said, no, we said God, a God of your own understanding. And so I was hearing things. And, so changing that and redirecting my thinking, finding out the truth. My first sponsor highly suggested, because I did that all the time. You know what he suggested? With his infinite wisdom, he goes, there's this thing that's been out for quite a while. I don't know if you heard of it or not. It's called a dictionary. Maybe you might want to look some words up and their definition, because you have some wrong definitions of things. How about that word trudge? Join us as we trudge the road to happy destiny. To me, that word sounds like they're going to hook me up to a pickup truck and drag me through a mud bog. That's trudging, right? And wrong. It's to walk with purpose. And so I started seeing where I was wrong. I didn't know as much as you said you don't know shit. Perfect. I've seen the smart ones in here. They don't make it. They do. I'll repeat that. They do not make it. Not most of them. I'm not saying that there's no intelligent people in here, because don't get me wrong. Boy, that might be resentments right there. Good. My job is getting there. But no, there is intelligence. In fact, the book even tells us that. It says most of us have an above average intelligence. It's in the book. So I joined Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what I believe is what's in the book. When I first got here, I thought you guys are full of shit. I thought the book was full of shit, and you can take your God and do you know what with him. And today, that's not how I feel at all. All of that has changed. I thought this was the worst thing that could ever happen to a person. AA. I didn't talk about being in AA with my guidance counselor. Hey, Dave, what do you want to do in your future? I was thinking about president of AA. That sounds pretty good. It's like, but here we are, right? I don't know what, and everybody has a different experience when they walk through the door. There's people that walk through the door, put their hand up, never have a drink again. They're happy, joyous, and free, and they do every single thing that their sponsor tells them. But guess what? They're still not perfect either. There's no such thing as perfect. And if there is, it's just not taking that first drink. Because that's all it takes to set off the phenomenon of craving. That's the phenomenon of craving. But we take the drink before we take the drink.
Right.
It was described to me as going through the steps backwards. So if you're going through, 1, 2, 3, 5, 12, all that, all the way through it. If you start resting on your laurels and going backwards, that's what's happening. You're going backwards in the steps, and then that insanity returns. It tells us that in the book. It says the insanity returns, and then we drink. A lot of us, when we're new, we think that, oh man, I drank and I just went insane and stuff. No, you went insane first, and then you took the drink, because for people like it, to drink is to die, right? That's what the book tells us. So, I'm no big book thumper. I'm just one of you guys. That's it, man. I just want to be humble and grateful. I've got, and I say this quite often, just so I can hear myself say it, just like when I introduce myself, my name's Dave. I will always be an alcoholic. I say that so I hear it. If someone else hears it, awesome. That's great. I heard it from someone else, and I asked them if I could use that. And so the life that I have today, my gratitude doesn't match it. And I work on that, because I know I could be a lot more grateful for the blessings in my life. I know I can be more grateful. And I challenge myself to that, to just try to be humble and grateful. If someone asks for help, man, absolutely. If I can help, I will help. There's no doubt about that. I know that my sobriety hinges on that. That's Just like the 3 legacies, man: service, unity, and recovery. You know, I've heard people in here say, I might not like everybody, but I love everybody. And, you know, some of these things that I've heard for years, I'm like, I don't know about all that. And, you know, but it's becoming true. You know, if you're a real alcoholic like me, I know what that's like, and I will help. I will not judge anybody. And even if I don't like you, okay? Here's a challenge. If you don't like me, come ask me for help. We can help each other. So anyways, I see it's almost 8 o'clock, and I really appreciate Scott asking me to do this. I work a lot, so I'm not really around a lot, and I'd like to be around a lot more, but you know, I do have 4 days off, and that was enough to get a felony. And this is day 2, and I haven't even taken a drink. So, woohoo! Court dismissed.